A billionaire CEO mocked the janitor for selling a violin, then froze when his daughter played it. I'm about to tell you a story that will touch your heart, but before we dive in, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you so much. Now, let's jump into today's story. A billionaire CEO mocked the janitor for selling a violin, then froze when his daughter played it. It was a chilly morning in New York City, the kind of cold that nips at your skin and makes you long for warmth. In the busy downtown area, a tall, well-dressed man, Liam Parker, CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech company, stepped out of his sleek black car and into the bustling lobby of his office building. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his suit pressed to perfection, a sharp contrast to the worn-out janitor he barely noticed cleaning the floor just a few feet away. The janitor, an older man named George, was hunched over with a violin case by his side. The violin case wasn't ordinary. It looked old, worn, but there was something about it that caught Liam's eye. He sneered as he glanced at it, then turned to his assistant. "Why would someone like him have a violin?" Liam scoffed under his breath, loud enough for George to hear. "Probably thinks he's some kind of artist." George, used to the ridicule, kept his head down. He knew better than to engage with people like Liam. But what Liam didn't know was that George's daughter, a talented young musician, had been struggling to make ends meet, and he had sold his violin, one that had been passed down through generations, to pay for her music lessons. He didn't care for the mockery, but he cared deeply for her future. George went on with his work, ignoring the comments, as Liam walked away, completely oblivious to the true value of what he had just mocked. Later that evening, the company hosted a charity gala, an extravagant event filled with the city's elite. Liam, the man who owned it all, was at the center of the room, surrounded by wealthy business partners and friends. He was lost in conversation when he heard the soft sound of a violin echoing through the ballroom. It wasn't just any violin music, though. The sound was delicate, yet powerful. The notes seemed to speak directly to the soul. Liam followed the melody, his curiosity piqued. His eyes scanned the crowd, and that's when he saw George's daughter, standing in the middle of the grand hall, her violin case open at her feet as she played. The crowd gathered around her, captivated by her performance. But it wasn't just her skill that caught Liam's attention. It was the way she played with such raw emotion, the passion that flowed through every note. It was the same violin he had mocked just hours earlier, the same one that had once been a symbol of ridicule in his eyes. His heart skipped a beat as the realization hit him like a ton of bricks. The girl he had so carelessly mocked was no ordinary janitor's daughter. She was a prodigy, and that violin was more valuable than anything he had ever owned. As the last note hung in the air, Liam froze, his body rooted to the spot. His mind raced. How had he been so blind? He approached her, his footsteps hesitant but driven by something deeper than his usual arrogance. The crowd parted as he stepped forward, and as their eyes met, he could see the faint trace of recognition in her eyes. She didn't know who he was. She had no idea that he was the CEO of the company that had once mocked her father. But in that moment, he felt a deep sense of guilt, a pang of regret for every time he had belittled someone who wasn't as fortunate as him. The night went on, but Liam couldn't stop thinking about the girl, her violin, and the way her music had shaken him to his core. He knew he had to make things right, but how could he possibly fix the damage he'd caused? And more importantly, how could he redeem himself in her eyes? He hadn't just mocked her father. He had also mocked something far more valuable than wealth. He had mocked the very spirit of music and passion that had the power to change lives. As the evening ended and the guests began to leave, Liam found himself at a crossroads. He knew he couldn't just walk away from this moment. Something inside him had shifted. He was no longer the man who stood above others, looking down on them from his high pedestal. He was just a man who had witnessed something extraordinary and now had to find a way to make it right. I'm sure you're wondering what happens next. Let's pick up right where we left off. After the gala, Liam Parker couldn't shake the image of the young girl playing the violin. He had never felt so embarrassed, so humbled in his life. He had always been the one in control, the one who called the shots. But today, in the face of a simple act of kindness, he realized how wrong he had been. The next day, as Liam sat in his sleek office, The weight of his actions still hung heavy on him. He couldn't focus on his work. His usual confident demeanor was nowhere to be found. He kept thinking about the girl, the violin, and the fact that he had mocked her father. His mind raced, trying to figure out how he could fix this, how he could make things right. It wasn't just about the apology anymore. He felt that deep sense of regret because of the way he had treated someone who, in reality, had more depth and heart than he had ever seen in his own circle of wealth. He had spent so much of his life surrounded by people who only cared about status, power, and money. But here was a girl who saw the world differently, who valued something as pure as music, something he had long since forgotten about. But how could he approach her? She probably didn't even want to speak to him. He had made a fool of himself. Still, something pushed him forward. That evening, Liam found himself standing outside the same charity venue where the violinist had played. He had made up his mind to find her, to apologize and offer something, anything, to make up for his behavior. He was determined to right the wrong. When he entered the building, the memories of the night before flooded back. He saw the same faces, the same lavish decorations. But none of it seemed to matter anymore. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on her, the girl, standing by a table, chatting with some of the event organizers. She didn't notice him at first, but when she looked up and saw him standing there was a moment of recognition. Her eyes narrowed, and for a brief second, Liam thought she might turn away and walk off. But then, to his surprise, she smiled politely. Liam swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment. "I owe you an apology," he began, his voice sincere, almost too soft for someone like him. "I was wrong yesterday. What I said was completely out of line." She didn't say anything at first, just nodded slightly, as if acknowledging his words without letting him off the hook. "It was rude and thoughtless of me," he continued. "I made a judgment based on nothing more than appearances. I should never have mocked you or your father for something so meaningful." She took a small step back, still processing his words. "It's all right," she said, her voice steady, but Liam could hear the hint of distance in her tone. "I'm not upset. It's not the first time someone's looked down on us because of what we have or don't have." Liam felt a pang in his chest. "That's not what I meant," he said quickly. "I wasn't looking down on you. I was foolish, and I didn't understand. But I want to learn. I want to know more about the violin, about your music. I want to do something good, something meaningful for you and your family." She looked at him curiously, as if unsure whether or not to trust him. "What exactly do you have in mind?" she asked, her tone cautious but open. Liam smiled, relieved that she wasn't dismissing him outright. "I want to help. I want to give your father back that violin. I want to do more than just apologize. If there's a way I can support you, whether it's through funding your music lessons or finding a place for your father to sell his art without being judged, I want to be part of that." Her eyes softened for a moment, but she didn't immediately accept his offer. Instead, she took a deep breath and studied him. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice tinged with skepticism. Liam paused, searching for the right words. "Because I've realized that there's more to life than just wealth and power. You and your father, you've taught me something valuable, something I've lost sight of. Music, kindness, generosity. Those things matter more than I ever thought." She didn't speak for a long time, and for a moment, the silence between them felt heavy. But then, slowly, she smiled, a small, genuine smile. "I appreciate the gesture," she said softly. "But it's not about the money. It's about what we do with it." Liam nodded, understanding now. He had been so focused on fixing things with money, but it was never about that. It was about respect, about acknowledging the humanity in others. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was seeing the world clearly again. He had a long way to go before he could fully redeem himself, but this was a start. And for the first time, he felt like it was worth it. "I'm glad you're still with us. Now, let's continue the story." Liam stood there, watching her for a moment, feeling the weight of the silence between them. He had made his offer, but he knew that this wasn't going to be resolved with just money or grand gestures. It was something deeper, something that he had yet to truly understand. She had softened, yes, but her eyes told him that trust was something he still had to earn. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "I appreciate your offer, Liam, but there's more to this than just what you can do for us. It's about how you see the world, how you see people like us. And I'm not sure you're there yet." Her words stung, but he didn't shy away from them. He deserved it. He had spent so many years in his bubble, focused only on what made him powerful, What made him rich? That he had forgotten how to truly see others. "I know," Liam said quietly. "I know I've been blind. I've been blind to the real value of people, to the struggles they face every day. I've been blind to the fact that I'm not the center of the universe." She didn't respond immediately, but there was something in her eyes, something that told him she was beginning to see that he might be genuine. "You don't understand, Liam," she said after a while. "You think that money can fix everything, but it can't. My father doesn't need your money. What he needs is respect, and what he needs is for people to stop treating him like he's invisible just because he's not wealthy. You can't buy that no matter how much you have." Liam's heart sank as her words hit him harder than any business deal ever had. He had been so focused on offering a solution, on throwing money at the problem, that he hadn't stopped to think about the deeper issue, the one that couldn't be fixed with a check. He had a lot of work to do, but this conversation, these words, felt like a turning point. "I'm sorry," he said softly, his voice filled with sincerity. "I didn't realize. I thought that by offering help, by offering money, I could fix things. But I see now that it's about more than that. I see now that it's about changing how I treat people, how I treat you and your father, not because of what you can give me, but because of who you are." She seemed to study him for a moment, and then, for the first time, she looked at him with something resembling understanding. "You're not there yet," she said, "but you're on the right path. I'll give you that." Liam exhaled in relief, grateful that she wasn't shutting him down completely. "Thank you," he whispered, feeling a new sense of determination settling in his chest. He wasn't going to give up on this. He was going to do better, not just for her, not just for her father, but for himself too. Over the next few weeks, Liam kept his promise. He made an effort to connect with people outside of his usual circles. He spent time with George, the janitor, learning about his life and his struggles. He watched as George played his violin, seeing the love and passion he had for music. Liam saw the way George's face lit up when he talked about his daughter and her dreams. Liam also reached out to organizations that supported struggling artists, offering donations and resources to help them get their foot in the door. It wasn't about a one-time donation, it was about making a lasting impact. He also invited George and his daughter to dinner several times, trying to learn more about their world. With each passing interaction, Liam found himself growing as a person. He was beginning to see beyond the surface, to see the richness in lives that weren't defined by wealth or status. But the real test came one evening when Liam attended a music recital. It was held at a small local venue, not far from the building where he had first met George's daughter. Liam had invited her to perform, and she had accepted, though with a certain hesitancy. He could tell that she wasn't entirely sure he had truly changed. As the recital began, Liam sat in the back, nervous but eager to support her. When her turn came, she took the stage, the spotlight shining down on her. She was dressed simply, no glitz, no glamour, just a young girl with a violin, standing alone in front of a crowd. The moment she played, Liam's breath caught in his chest. The music was raw, pure, and full of emotion. It wasn't just the technical skill that impressed him, it was the depth of feeling she poured into each note, the vulnerability she showed through her performance. It was a moment that shifted something inside him. He realized then that he had been wrong about everything. Wealth didn't make people valuable. It was the heart, the soul, the capacity to love and to give that made someone truly rich. As she finished her performance, the crowd erupted into applause. Liam couldn't help but stand, clapping harder than anyone else in the room. He was proud of her, proud of the journey he had just begun, proud of himself for starting to understand what it meant to be truly human. "I'm glad you're still with me. Let's continue." After the recital, Liam couldn't stop thinking about what he had witnessed. As he sat in the back of the small venue, applauding her performance, it wasn't just the music that touched him, it was the moment of realization that came with it. He had spent so many years working in a world where money, status, and power defined everything, and yet here was a young girl, with nothing but her talent, her passion, and her heart, standing in front of him. She had played not just for the audience but for herself, and for the life she wanted to build. That night, as he walked home from the recital, Liam realized that he was no longer the man he had been just a few weeks ago. He no longer cared about being at the top of the social ladder, about impressing people with his wealth or success. What he truly cared about was making a difference and helping people like George and his daughter. Over the next few months, Liam worked to rebuild the relationships he had neglected for so long. He made regular visits to George's home, learning more about the struggles they faced and offering help in any way he could. He didn't do it for recognition or praise. He did it because it felt right. He didn't want to be the billionaire who just threw money at problems. He wanted to be someone who could create real change. One afternoon, Liam called George to ask if they could meet up. He had something important to discuss. When George arrived at his office, Liam wasted no time. "I've been thinking," Liam started, "about the violin, about everything you've taught me. And I want to do more than just apologize for the past. I want to offer your daughter a real opportunity, one that she deserves. I'm prepared to fund her music education fully, so she can go to the best schools, have the best teachers, and be the artist she was always meant to be." George stared at him for a moment, his eyes filled with surprise and confusion. "I don't know what to say," George finally replied. "You're offering us a chance we never dreamed of. But why? Why are you doing this?" Liam smiled, his eyes sincere. "Because I've seen how talented she is. I've seen the way she plays with so much heart, and I realize that someone like her, someone with such passion and potential, deserves more than just a handout. She deserves a chance to create something beautiful, to live her dream." George was silent for a moment, processing the offer. Finally he nodded, his voice soft but filled with emotion. "You've come a long way, Liam. I can't speak for my daughter, but I'll make sure she has the opportunity to decide for herself." The next few days passed in a blur. Liam reached out to several renowned music schools, offering them generous donations to support the education of talented young musicians, and he specifically arranged for George's daughter to be given a scholarship. He didn't want any of this to feel like a charity. He wanted it to feel like an opportunity, one that would allow her to flourish on her own merit. As time went on, George and his daughter became regular guests in Liam's life. He wasn't just helping them anymore. He was becoming a part of their world. Liam found himself at their house for family dinners, attending small local events where he could see the real lives of people who lived outside his circle of wealth. He found joy in these moments, real joy, not the fleeting thrill of luxury and success. It was at one of these family dinners that George's daughter Emma finally spoke to him openly. "I've been thinking about everything," she said quietly. "About your offer and about you. I want to accept your help. I don't want to stay where I am forever. But what I really want is to do this on my own, with your support, not your control." Liam nodded, feeling a sense of pride. She wasn't asking for a handout. She was asking for a partnership, and that was what he had been hoping for all along. "I understand," Liam said. "I'll be here for you no matter what. But the choice is yours. I'm just here to help you make your dream a reality." Over the next few months, Emma's music career began to take off. She went on to win several local competitions and received national recognition for her talent. She attended prestigious music schools, just as Liam had promised. But more than that, she found her own voice as an artist, one that wasn't shaped by the expectations of others, but by her own passion and creativity. Liam watched from the sidelines, proud of the young woman she had become. He had played a part in her journey, but the credit for her success was all hers. As for Liam, he had learned more than he could have imagined in those few months. He had learned the true meaning of giving, of helping others not just with money, but with respect, love, and the opportunity to grow. And as the months turned into years, Liam continued to support George and Emma, not just as a benefactor, but as a friend, someone who had found a new sense of purpose in life. The man who had once been blind to the struggles of others had now become a man who understood the power of kindness, generosity, and the importance of family. "I'm so glad you've stayed with me through this story. Let's continue." The years passed, and Liam's life had changed in ways he never expected. He had built a connection with George and Emma, one that was no longer just about charity or helping out of guilt. It was about real friendship, real growth, and respect. As Emma's music career flourished, she began to play in concert halls around the country, gaining recognition for her talent and passion. It was clear to anyone who saw her perform that she was no longer the shy, uncertain young girl who had played that violin at the gala. She was a force of nature, someone who commanded attention not just with her skill, but with the authenticity of her spirit. Liam, now her close friend and biggest supporter, often found himself backstage at her concerts, watching her take the stage, with the same grace and power he had seen that night at the charity event. But for Liam, the most incredible part of all this was seeing how far he had come. He had always been about success and wealth, But now he found joy in simple moments, watching Emma perform, having dinner with George, and hearing their stories. He had found something more important than just financial success. He had found true connection. One evening, after one of Emma's performances, Liam and George were sitting in the backstage area, sipping coffee and chatting about the future. "She's amazing," Liam said, his voice filled with pride. "She's come so far, and it's all her. She's done the hard work, the practice, the sacrifice. I just gave her the chance, the opportunity." George smiled, nodding. "You gave her more than that, Liam. You gave her belief. You gave her the freedom to be who she truly is, without anyone telling her she wasn't enough." Liam looked at his friend, feeling the weight of his words. It wasn't just about money or a scholarship anymore. It was about giving Emma the space to find herself, to trust in her own abilities, and to pursue her dreams without fear of failure. It had taken Liam a long time to understand that, but now he saw it clearly. "I think that's the most important thing I've ever done," Liam said, his voice soft. "And it's something I never understood before. I've spent so much of my life pushing people to succeed in ways that benefit me. But now, I realize that true success is about lifting others up, about being there for them when they need it the most." George smiled warmly. "You've learned a lot, Liam. You're not the same man who walked into my life that day, and I'm proud of you for that." Liam nodded, grateful for his friend's words. But even as he sat there, feeling the weight of the years of growth and change, he knew there was still more to learn. The next day, Liam made a decision. He had been thinking about it for some time, and now he was certain. He called Emma and asked if they could meet. "I've been thinking a lot about the future," he said when they sat down together. "And I want to offer you something that I think could help you take your career to the next level." Emma looked at him, curious, but cautious. "What is it?" she asked. Liam took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "I've always been about making investments, but what I realized recently is that the best investment I can make is in people, in the things that matter. I want to invest in you, Emma. Not just with money, but with everything I have, the resources, the connections, the opportunities. I believe in you that much." Emma was silent for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. Finally, she spoke. "I don't know what to say," she said softly. "You've already done so much for me. I've been given more opportunities than I ever imagined possible. But I don't want this to be about you buying my success, Liam. I want to earn it. I want to stand on my own and make my own way." Liam nodded, understanding. "I respect that. This isn't about buying your success. It's about supporting you, standing by your side, and helping you get to where you want to go. You've earned it all on your own. But if you ever need anything, any help, any resources, I'll always be here." Emma smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Liam. That means more to me than you know." Over the next few years, Emma continued to rise in the music world, her career reaching new heights. She went on to perform at some of the world's most prestigious venues, and her music touched the hearts of thousands. But through it all, she remained grounded, humble, and true to herself, never forgetting where she came from. And as for Liam, he had found a new purpose in life. He had built a legacy not just with his wealth and success, but with the lives he had touched, the people he had helped, and the friendships he had formed. He knew that his true wealth wasn't in the things he owned, but in the love and respect he had earned from those who mattered most. And so, as the years went by, Liam continued to support Emma and George, not as a benefactor, but as a friend, someone who had learned that true success was about helping others find their own success. And in doing so, he had found his own sense of peace, his own sense of purpose. "I'm glad you've stayed with me through this journey. Let's pick up right where we left off." Emma's career continued to flourish, and as she gained more recognition, Liam found himself more and more in awe of her strength and determination. She had become a true artist, not just because of her talent, but because of her humility, her authenticity, and her commitment to staying true to her roots. But it wasn't just Emma who had changed. Liam had too. As he watched Emma perform on grand stages and achieve the dreams she once thought were impossible, he felt an overwhelming sense of pride, not just for her, but for himself, because he had played a small part in helping her get there. He had been the one to offer support, to believe in her when she had doubts, and to help her find the resources she needed to succeed. Yet, in all of this, Liam had also discovered something about himself, that he hadn't known. He was missing a true sense of fulfillment. He realized that the success he had been chasing for years had never brought him the happiness he truly sought. It wasn't about the money, the power, or the recognition. It was about making a difference, about leaving a legacy that mattered, one that wasn't defined by material things, but by the impact he had on the people around him. One evening, as he sat at home reflecting on everything that had happened, Liam felt a deep sense of peace wash over him. He had come a long way from the arrogant CEO who had mocked George for selling his violin. The man who had once believed that success was measured by how much money you made was now a man who understood that the real measure of success was the love you gave, the kindness you showed, and the impact you had on others. As he picked up his phone, he texted George, "How about dinner tomorrow night? It's been too long." The next evening, Liam arrived at George's home for their usual dinner together. He had come to look forward to these nights, just a simple meal, shared stories, and laughter. It was during these dinners that Liam felt truly connected to the world outside of his corporate life. As he walked into the house, George greeted him with a warm smile. "Good to see you, Liam. You're just in time. Emma's on her way over too." Liam smiled back. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." They sat down to eat, and the conversation flowed easily. Liam was no longer the distant, disconnected man he had once been. He had learned the value of these small moments, the quiet evenings spent with people who mattered, not because of what they could offer him, but because of who they were. As they ate, George looked at Liam and spoke softly. "You know, Liam, I've been thinking a lot lately. I don't think I ever properly thanked you for everything you've done for us. You've given Emma opportunities that no one else could have. But more than that, you've shown us something we never knew we needed: kindness, belief, and the willingness to see people for who they are, not what they have." Liam was silent for a moment, his heart full. "I don't need any thanks, George. I did it because I believe in Emma, and I believe in you. But more than that, I did it because I've learned what truly matters. It's not about the money or the accolades. It's about helping others, lifting them up, and seeing them succeed." Emma arrived a little later, her bright smile lighting up the room as she walked in. She hugged both of them, and they continued their dinner, laughing, talking, and simply enjoying each other's company. As the evening wore on, Liam found himself feeling content in a way he hadn't experienced before. He didn't need to chase success anymore. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone. He had everything he needed right here in this room, with these people who had become his family. And as he looked at Emma, now a young woman who had achieved so much, he couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of pride. She had done it all on her own, but with his support, and more importantly, with her own heart. The night ended with laughter, hugs, and promises to do it again soon. But as Liam left George's home and walked back to his car, he realized something. His life had become everything he had once dreamed of, but in a way he had never expected. It wasn't about the wealth, the status, or the recognition. It was about love. It was about connection, and it was about helping others find their own path to happiness. And for the first time in his life, Liam knew that he had found what he had been searching for all along. "I'm glad you've stuck with me all the way through this journey. Let's continue." As time went on, Liam found himself becoming more and more integrated into George and Emma's lives. What began as a simple act of kindness had turned into a deep and lasting friendship. For the first time in his life, Liam realized that the value of a person wasn't determined by their wealth or success. It was about their character, their heart, and the love they shared with others. He spent weekends with George, helping him with small repairs around the house, or just sitting and chatting over coffee. These moments, simple as they were, felt like the most fulfilling of his life. Liam had become part of their family, and in doing so, he had discovered a new sense of belonging, a feeling that had been missing from his life for so long. One evening, as the three of them sat around the dinner table, Emma looked at Liam with a thoughtful expression. "You've changed, Liam," she said, her voice soft but filled with sincerity. "I've watched you over the past few years, and you're not the same man who walked into my life all those years ago. You've become someone who genuinely cares, someone who understands the importance of family and love." Liam felt a lump form in his throat. He had spent so many years chasing the wrong things, believing that success was all that mattered. But now, in the presence of these two people, he understood that the real success in life came from the connections you made and the love you gave. "I owe so much to you both," Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've taught me things I never could have learned from all the business meetings, all the wealth in the world. You've shown me what it really means to be human, George smiled warmly. "You're not just a businessman, Liam. You're a good man, and that's more important than anything else." For the first time in his life, Liam felt a true sense of peace. He had built his empire from the ground up, but now he realized that the things he had once thought were important, money, power, status, were all fleeting. What truly mattered was the love and connection he had found with George and Emma, and the family they had become. As the years went by, Emma continued to soar in her music career. She became an internationally recognized artist, performing in concert halls around the world. Her talent and heart moved audiences everywhere she went. But no matter how far her career took her, she never forgot the people who had supported her along the way. Liam remained by her side, not as a benefactor but as a true friend, cheering her on every step of the way. One day, as Liam attended one of Emma's concerts, he watched from the front row as she played her final piece of the evening. Her music filled the hall, resonating with the audience. And in that moment, Liam realized that he had found something even more valuable than success. He had found love, the kind that transcended everything else. After the performance, Liam met Emma backstage. "You were amazing," he said, his voice filled with pride. "You've come so far, Emma. I'm so proud of everything you've achieved." Emma smiled, her eyes shining. "I couldn't have done it without you, Liam. You believed in me when no one else did. You gave me the chance to pursue my dreams, and that's something I'll never forget." Liam felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He had spent so many years looking for happiness in the wrong places, but now he understood that the true meaning of success was watching someone else's dreams come true. "You're my family, Emma," Liam said quietly, "and nothing in the world could make me prouder than seeing you live your dream." As the night came to a close, Liam walked out of the concert hall with a full heart. He had found something more important than all the wealth and success he had accumulated over the years. He had found love, friendship, and a family that meant the world to him. In the years that followed, Liam continued to support Emma and George, not out of obligation, but out of love. He became a part of their lives in ways he had never expected, and in doing so, he found the happiness and fulfillment he had been searching for all along. Liam had come a long way from the man who had once mocked George for selling his violin. He had learned that the true measure of a person's worth wasn't in what they owned, but in the love they gave and the relationships they built. And in that realization, he had found peace, a peace that came from knowing he had made a difference, not just in his own life, but in the lives of those he cared about. "I'm so grateful you've joined me for this incredible journey. Let's wrap this up with a heartwarming conclusion." Liam stood by the window of his office one crisp evening, looking out over the city. It had been a long road, one that had taken him from the heights of corporate success to the depths of personal transformation. He had once lived a life driven by the need to accumulate more, to be the best, to be admired. But now, as he gazed out at the sprawling city beneath him, he saw something different. He saw not just buildings and money, but the lives of the people he had come to care about, the relationships he had built, and the love that had filled his heart in ways wealth never could. Emma had truly become a star in her own right, her music continuing to inspire and move people all over the world. She had found success, but more importantly, she had remained humble, grounded, and true to herself. It had been Liam's greatest honor to support her not as a benefactor but as a friend, someone who had believed in her from the start. And George, the man who had once been a janitor and a humble musician, had found a new sense of purpose too. With his daughter's success, George was no longer just the hard-working father who sold his violin for a dream. He was now a man who had seen his sacrifices come to fruition, who had watched his daughter rise to the top with the same determination that had fueled his own life. The friendship they had built over the years meant more to Liam than anything else. As he reflected on the past, Liam couldn't help but think about the moment that had started it all, the night he had mocked George for selling his violin. It had been such a small, thoughtless moment, yet it had changed the course of his life. He had learned that true success wasn't about what you owned or how much power you had. It was about how you treated others, about showing kindness and support when people needed it most. That was where the real value lay. As Liam turned away from the window, he picked up his phone and dialed Emma. "Hey, Emma, how are you?" he asked, his voice warm with affection. "I'm good, just finishing up a recording session," she replied, her voice full of the same passion he had always admired. "How's everything on your end?" "It's been great," Liam said, smiling. "I've been thinking a lot about how far you've come. I'm so proud of you, Emma. You've truly made your dreams come true, and I'm honored to have been a part of that journey. You've been more than a part of it, Liam, Emma said softly. You've been my support, my mentor, my friend. You've shown me what real success looks like. I'll never forget how you believed in me when no one else did. Liam felt a lump form in his throat. You don't have to thank me, Emma. You've done all the hard work. But I've learned something from you, too. You've taught me the value of family, the importance of giving without expecting anything in return. And most importantly, you've shown me that love and kindness are the greatest success of all. There was a long pause on the other end of the line before Emma spoke again, her voice filled with emotion. I think I've learned the same from you, Liam. You've shown me that there's more to life than just chasing dreams and building a career. You've taught me that the relationships we have, the people we love, are what really matter in the end. Liam felt his heart swell with pride. Thank you, Emma. That means more than you'll ever know. The conversation ended, but Liam didn't feel the emptiness he once had. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had finally found what he had been searching for all along, a life filled with love, purpose, and the kind of success that couldn't be measured by a bank account. As he sat back in his chair, looking out at the city one last time, he realized that everything he had been through had brought him to this point. The mistakes, the regrets, the pain, it had all led him to a place where he truly understood the meaning of life. And in that moment he was at peace. He had no regrets. He had no more to prove. He had found what mattered most. In the end, Liam had learned that it wasn't the achievements that made a life worthwhile. It was the connections, the people you loved, and the difference you made in the lives of others. That was the true measure of success.